Welcome to the interview portion of the Spotlight. I'm Steven Jensen, as always, with Jeremy Lambert, and today we have the owner, the promoter of Absolute Intense Wrestling, AIW, one of the best independent companies out there, in my opinion. John Thorne is joining us. John, how you doing today, man?
Great. That was I'm doing even better after that wonderful introduction. Might have to hire you.
All right, hey, I'll take bookings, man. So we can talk about that. But hey, I appreciate that. Thanks for coming on, man. How you doing? How you been?
Good, man. Good. You know, it's just like everyone else, kind of readjusting to this world of wrestling post pandemic, or maybe we're still in the pandemic. I don't really know, but yeah, it's been a crazy few years. So just excited that things are somewhat, kind of trending towards some form of normalcy in the world of independent wrestling again.
It is good that so speaking of the pandemic, so you guys got Gauntlet for the Gold this Saturday, May 21st, and as I was telling you off air, I will be there. This is my first AIW show, and looking over everything on Eventbrite, you guys are still taking the pandemic very seriously. As you know, masks are recommended for everybody. Masks will be provided. You're still doing socially distancing. You still have hand sanitizers and everything. And it's really good to see, because you see a lot of these other shows, and it's just like, all right, everything's just normalcy back in the world. You can just come like nothing has happened. But how was the pandemic like for you guys, and just trying to do anything through the pandemic?
Well, I will say, we do try to kind of encourage those things, but once a crowd shows up, it's really, the social distancing really almost becomes, up to the people, I suppose, once there's so many tickets sold. For a long time, though, up until just a few months ago, we were still doing reduced capacity shows and things like that, which was very difficult. But, it was just so hard to kind of navigate what to do, because, you want to worry about people's safety. You want to worry about optics as a company. There were so many different things and layers to kind of try to navigate through. I will say that I do expect Saturday is probably going to be pretty packed. We've kind of, opened up tickets, starting the last few months, and the presale is pretty high. So, we do put all those things on Eventbrite and recommend all those things still. And, we will have masks, and, there'll be hand sanitizer and things like that. But will people abide by it at this point? I don't know. Like it's too hard to tell. But we did so, for I guess 2 years, we were down for a long time, and we did a few shows in Indiana, and we tried to do a no fan concept for IWTV, and then we started, Ohio started allowing certain, indoor events again. And, we started very small. We were doing 100 ticket shows for, the first few months starting last spring. And, we just have slowly started kind of opening that up a little bit more. So, it's been difficult. And I've talked about it a lot to people. It feels like the pandemic feels like it lasted for like a decade, and it also feels like it like didn't last at all, depending on how you're feeling for the day, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of the card this weekend, though, the matches that are announced, I'm very much looking forward to. I'd like to just get some a little recognition out there for some of the talent. A lot of these guys I cover on the Fightful Select Weekender each Sunday, as I'd like to talk about independent wrestling on there, and a lot of great names that you've announced. And like right at the top of the card, you got Matt Cardona, who obviously is making huge waves in the wrestling world ever since leaving the WWE, a couple of years ago. What's it been like having Matt Cardona not only be a part of the promotion for y'all, but carrying those titles for you as well?
It's really crazy, because it started off as it was just kind of like a one-off booking that, I don't know how familiar you are with this toy convention, Toy Ohio, that takes place in Ohio.
Yeah.
One of the things that was crazy about the pandemic is the founder of that, Tom Troll, used to come to AIW events. and he passed away. And his business partner, who I'd never met before, reached out to me and said, "Hey, we would like a wrestling presence at our convention going forward. I would like to just give you a table to promote AIW." So I went and checked it out. Like, at some point during the pandemic, they did like a February event, and then they gave us a table for June. And it so happened that he was going to bring in, Matt Cardona and Brian Myers and Smart Mark Sterling. And I'm very good friends with Brian Myers, but I did not know Matt Cardona. I didn't know Mark Sterling. And, we kind of threw an event the day before Toy Hio just to kind of get them. And, it was this weird deal that we worked out because we were doing only 100 tickets, and they were already going to be in town. So it was kind of just like supposed to be a one-off thing. And then, after that, we kind of stayed in contact, and, we started putting a schedule together, and I gave him a bunch of dates and he was available for him. And we kind of just made the crazy decision, that he's going to be the champion. I don't think anybody expected it to happen. I think, people thought he was just coming in maybe for, another little one-off appearance because we were in a different market at that time, which we'll be back at on Saturday. We're in Akron. It's been great. And, I told him, I said, what's interesting about him, when you have Matt Cardona on the card, and the same goes for Brian Myers, they have cultivated such a niche audience and fan base that would probably have never kind of experimented with independent wrestling, because they're, I know independent wrestling has become a lot more mainstream and acceptable, but there has always been a stigma about it. And there's always been, a kind of stance from a lot of, what I call the universe, right? Like a lot of them would never come out and check out an independent show, but to come meet, the guy that was formerly known as Zack Ryder, you get the universe out. And I always kind of mess with them about that. I was like, the universe is out because you see all these chalk line jackets in the crowd now, and all this, WWE merch that you normally don't see at an independent wrestling event. And it creates such a unique environment, and it's been great. It's really helped us kind of get our name back out there, because we were kind of down and out for, the pandemic, other than a few things that we tried that really didn't generate too much buzz or talk. Matt Cardona has certainly helped the company grow.
Now, along with Cardona this weekend, the Gauntlet for the Gold, Kingston, who won Gauntlet for the Gold 14. This is the first one since 2019. You guys haven't held it because of the pandemic with everything. And now Eddie Kingston is back. What does it mean to have him back at this event where he was the last winner of the Gauntlet for the Gold?
Eddie Kingston is great. We worked with him for so many years, when he was on the independents. And it's kind of crazy that you just brought that up, because I didn't even put that together until you said that he was the last winner, because it's been such like a blur, honestly. But I mean, that's just one of those things that like is like fate or the universe or whatever, just kind of like that makes so much sense. He was the last winner of the Gauntlet for the Gold. It's crazy. We haven't held this event in 3 years. And this event was scheduled in 2021, and the week it was supposed to happen is when, the pandemic really ramped up. It's when Ohio issued this. The event was scheduled for a Friday, and Ohio issued the stay-at-home order on that Tuesday before the event. So, we were forced to cancel. We had things booked. People had tickets, and the crazy thing about it is, over 100 people held on to those tickets for the last 2 years. We offered refunds, and people chose to hold on to it. And, now this show is finally happening. I think it's like been 28 months since it was originally scheduled. But having Eddie Kingston there is amazing. I'm so happy that he's finally being recognized as the star that everybody who's ever followed independent wrestling knew that he was. And I realize at this point, you can't bring him in every month anymore, so I kind of was joking with him. I said, "Hey, I know you don't want to do this, but a lot of fans want you to do a meet and greet on Saturday, and I know that's really not your thing, but you're kind of a television star now." So, he reluctantly has agreed to do a meet and greet on Saturday. I don't know how long it's going to last, because if anybody out there listening to this knows Eddie Kingston, you absolutely know that is not his thing, but he has agreed to do it. And the thing about Eddie Kingston is he is a very loyal person, and he has thanked us so many times for booking him all those years when he was struggling, he likes being able to come back and do this for the promotions that really stuck by him, which we booked him for years and years and years, and I'm happy to have him.
Jeremy, are you going to be attending that meet and greet for Eddie Kingston?
I will not be going to the meet. I didn't know about the meet and greet until just now, but maybe I should make plans to do it. Eddie Kingston, by the way, I have one Eddie Kingston story that some people know about, but yes, he might not like doing meet and greets, but also just the nicest dude in the world. If you just go up to him and just like say hi and everything, just the kindest dude ever. He did a video after an AEW show wishing somebody a happy birthday. Joseph a happy birthday, like just the nicest dude ever. So it doesn't shock me that he doesn't like meet and greets, but it also doesn't shock me that he's willing to do it because he is such a nice guy.
Yeah, he's so I was down for the AEW pay-per-view last May in Jacksonville, and I was hanging out with him, and like he's so embarrassing to me because I'm just there to see a couple people or whatever, and like every person that walked by would be like, "Hey, Christian, this is John Thorne. He kept me fed for all these years. I would like you to meet it. I want you to meet him." And I'm like, Christian does not care about this story, He doesn't want to meet me, but like he did that to everybody, and that's just kind of the guy that he is. And I hate any recognition or any of that. Like I'm a very kind of like behind the scenes, low key person, and he certainly went out of his way to embarrass me that entire weekend.
That's hilarious. So I brought up Cardona a little bit earlier, and I wanted to get your thoughts on another talent that is a frequent competitor in AIW. When I'm asked who I think are some of like the best independent talents out there that haven't been really exposed to the mainstream yet, one of my top, if not my absolute top right now, is Joshua Bishop. And that is who Cardona defeated for the Absolute and Intense Championships. I was lucky enough to see Josh Bishop's like some of his first matches down in Southern Underground Pro out of Nashville back when he was like first breaking in. And what's it been like seeing his progression? Because I feel like that guy he just screams just printing money, in my opinion.
He's a crazy person. The thing that's funny about that is, he is kind of developed into this just like force of a pro wrestler.
Yeah.
But it's like hard for me to take him seriously because he used to email our school when he was 16, and try to sign up. And we told him he couldn't train till he was 18. And he showed up at our school like the day he turned 18 because he wanted to be a pro wrestler so bad. And he was just kind of this, still growing 18-year-old awkward looking, teenager. And, he was tall and he was kind of skinny and, he had like some acne and he had this real crazy hair. And, he never missed a class. He never missed an event, to come and help out, because when you're a wrestling student, you kind of help out at the live events when they're going on. And he's been there, I think he's like 23 now or 20. He's been there for a few years. And, it's hard for us to not see that, like, that we're there, just like that, awkward teenage kid that like all he wanted to do was, be a pro wrestler. I think that, he is finally starting to get a little bit of attention, that he deserves. I think, the thing that's interesting about him is, there's like an independent style and then there's like something else. And I think Josh Bishop is something else. I think he is, for lack of a better term, what you would call like a superstar, or what. He has a look, he has a presence, he has everything. He's not really going to give you, the 5-star classic match, but that's what's great about pro wrestling. You don't need that for every match in the card. And I think Josh Bishop, like you said, is a license to print money. I cannot believe that he in the last 6 months he has had looks from WWE, AEW, and Impact, and nobody has picked him up yet, which is astonishing to me. But he's also still very young.
Yeah. I want to. I hope Josh doesn't mind, but there was actually a DM that I had with him a while back, and I'm sure you'll remember this, John. I hit him up. This was on May 17th, 2019. It was right around 11:30 p.m. And I messaged
2
him.
years ago. Or 3 years.
Oh yeah, exactly. Oh, I didn't even
Today's May
realize that.
17th.
Wow, exactly.
This is today, as we're recording, this is the anniversary of the big crazy bump.
That was it. This is the DM. So I said, you okay, bro? That balcony spot was sick. And his response was, yeah, I'm alive, I guess.
Yeah, that was so. We just, we have this kind of group chat. Myself and as they call themselves, the Rip City Shooters, Josh Bishop and Wes Barkley, who is another product of the AIW Academy, who I think is, I think he is also very underutilized. And we didn't even realize that today was the day, and I'll never forget that moment. That day, it was our first time in, what is now considered our home, the Odeon. That was the first event there, and we got to be on our best behavior. You know what I mean? Like, it's this nice venue in downtown Cleveland, and Phoenix does not get on his plane that day. It's supposed to be headlined by the Lucha Brothers. Pentagon shows up. Phoenix just says he's on his way. He never shows up. Matt Justice and Josh Bishop are looking at this thing throughout the day, this balcony, and I kept saying, absolutely not. Like, absolutely not. Like, this is our first night here. They already don't like wrestling. Like, absolutely not. And they told me that they were not going to do it. Okay. So they kind of did like the, do and ask for forgiveness later thing. So, I am doing things in the back and, all this other stuff. And I see all these tables set up as the match is going on. And I go, they're not doing this. Like, there's no way. And they did it. And I was like, I think they're both dead, like everyone thought they were certainly dead. And then like the match was like, they weren't dead and the match was over and I went to yell at them, but the crowd was going so crazy still. And I was like, I want to yell at you guys now, but if you're alive, then I guess it's all okay.
Yeah. Oh man. And I'm glad you brought up Wes Barkley, Maserati Wes as well, because I think he's super underrated and I think he works great as an in-ring worker and also as a part of Josh's presentation. Like, I think there's a lot that can be done with those two guys all over the wrestling world.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is like, just like Josh, like, is different, Wes is different, and they're both kind of this non-traditional thing that you see well, maybe you see them on indies, but you don't see them, so featured on independent wrestling. Like there seems to be a style that really excels and gets talked about, and those guys don't do it, but they do other things to stand out, which I think makes them so unique. And I am certainly their biggest fan, or else they wouldn't be on the shows. And they also come and they help at the wrestling school now, which is awesome. They've gone through the program and now they come back and they help, and it's really kind of like a a machine at the AIW Academy where, you know, it's continuously trying to make everybody better. And those guys certainly pitch in, you know, as well as, you know, Dominik Guerini, who's the head trainer. I mean, it's kind of crazy, like how this whole thing has come together, because we never intended to have a wrestling school ever. And now it's kind of the only way we exist. If we didn't have that wrestling school, we probably would be out of business.
Yeah, and Jeremy, I promise this is my last follow up.
You're
He's lobbing me so much stuff I want to talk about. Like, so you brought up Dominik Guerini. He's kind of the opposite of what you're talking about with Josh Bishop, as far as like Guerini's kind of getting booked everywhere, and his style and him and Kevin Koo, that was something that really has been really cool to see, how both Kevin Koo and Dominik Guerini are both having such a great run as a tag team, and also individually holding singles titles all over the place, and just the different styles and everything they can do. Can you speak a little more on Guerini? Because he's a guy that, like, when I see a team like the Blackpool Combat Club on AEW, I'm like, Guerini and Koo were like made for something like that.
Yeah, I mean, Dom is, you know, he is kind of a similar story to Bishop. Not he came a little bit later, but, you know, he showed up at our school just as a student. You know, and that was when Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae were running the program. And, you know, throughout the training process, he kind of like lets it slip that he's this well-decorated jiu-jitsu guy. And, you know, none of us really know that much about it, but, you know, it like I locked in on that, and I was just like, okay, you know, you're the bone collector, Dominik Guerini. He was like, I was like, people can look up your credentials. Like, you have to use your real name.
So did you come up with the nickname Bone Collector?
Yes.
Oh, wow. That's very cool.
Wow.
I had no idea. That's awesome.
I mean, that just like, you know, sitting at the school, we do like promo things and stuff like that. You know, we were also gonna like, we had all these different funny pitches for Dom. Like, you know, we were gonna like make him like a kind of like a street fighter guy. We're gonna call him the king of the streets, you know, because he has this well decorated martial arts background. But we settled with the Bone Collector, and you know, at first, you know, he would come out with all his jiu-jitsu medals, and he stopped doing that. But the thing that is great about Dom is, you know, when Gargano and Candice got signed, they left, and there's really no like great veterans in the Cleveland area that could have taken that over. And not to say there's not veterans, but taking it over with such an open mind, because Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae were so positive and so hands-on. It takes a certain type of personality to be able to teach. And, you know, just knowing that Dom has taught jiu-jitsu, and he taught, you know, he's taught, you know, wrestling at high schools and things like that. While he certainly wasn't experienced enough, you know, on paper, he had tons of experience teaching, you know, at different, you know, combat sports levels. So, you know, we had him just start applying Johnny and Candice's curriculum, and that, I believe, made him a better wrestler as well, you know, because he was kind of thrown into the fire, and it was like, if we want the school to continue, you have to kind of figure this out right now. And he did. And, you know, sometimes he probably hates me for it, but he's what I would call like, you know, like my, like, you know, lieutenant or whatever, as far as AIW is concerned. You know, he's very involved with all aspects of the business and AIW and what we do. And he's, you know, really kind of helped this whole thing grow. And, you know, it's crazy. I went to the school a week ago, and we had like, I put some videos up on social media. We had like 50 students in there right now. I mean, it's insane. And, you know, that's really all a credit to, you know, Dom kind of taking the ball. And, you know, he could have certainly failed as, you know, the head coach at a wrestling school, being so new to pro wrestling himself. And he's excelled, and he has pumped out some great products that he has trained from scratch. And, you know, like I said, people, like Josh Bishop and Wes Barkley and Derek Dillinger and even the Duke, all these people kind of come to the school, and it's really kind of a group process, and it has really helped our company tremendously because we're creating our quote unquote stars from within at this point.
I did want to ask about Gargano and just his role in the growth of AEW, because I think for a lot of people, when you think of Cleveland wrestling, Johnny Gargano is probably the first name that pops into mind for most people.
Yeah, I mean, I've known Johnny Gargano for, almost 20 years probably. I think, I met him at some, local shows when AIW was kind of in its infancy. I think maybe I met him in like 2004 or 2005. He had his first AIW match in 2006. And he was pretty much with the company other than, a few months off here and there. There were some local politics that went on somewhere in there, and like with another company that was running that said Johnny Gargano can't wrestle for you guys. But that only lasted a few months, and then he was with us all the way up until his last independent appearance, I believe. The thing that's Johnny Gargano is, much like, someone like Dominik Guerini is, but a little bit differently. Gargano was always there to, help out. Somebody didn't show up. Gargano's he's offering to wrestle twice. And this is really in days before anybody knew who Johnny Gargano was. He was always kind of thirsty to get more experience. And then, when he started getting his breaks, he always still came back and made sure AIW was a part of his schedule all the time. And, really kind of developed into this world-class talent. What felt like probably to people overnight, but we had been seeing it in Cleveland for years, that he was always kind of on that trajectory to be, one of the elite talents. And at that time, it was just in independent wrestling because of his size. Nobody ever thought that he was going to get a contract, in those years, 2006, 2007, it was super rare. But he started getting his break, and he started really traveling all over the world, and he always kind of made sure he found ways to still do our shows. And there were times where there were Evolve shows and there were AIW shows, and he did AIW shows over the Evolve shows, and lots of stuff like that. He's always been extremely loyal guy, extremely proud to be from Cleveland. And I couldn't be prouder of, what he accomplished. Everyone in Cleveland knew that he was going to be that guy. And, I don't want to kind of put him on blast or anything like this, but, Johnny Gargano wrestled for like $40 up until like his last day. Like, he never asked for more money from when he was like a rookie, payday local guy. And he very well certainly could have. But that's just the kind of guy that he was. He wanted to see the company grow, and so there was always a place that had quality independent wrestling in the Cleveland area, and that's just kind of the type of guy that he was.
Wow, that's wild. I had no idea about any of that. As far as like that's pretty wild to not raise his booking fee.
I don't know that story's ever been told, but he never raised his price, from when he was like a 2006, 2007, like local guy with a little bit of, skill or whatever you want to call it. In those days, like that, a $40 payday in 2006 independent wrestling was like, pretty big, but for him to carry that all the way up to, 2015 or 16 or whatever it was, it's pretty crazy.
That is good salary cap management by you. You get Johnny Gargano on basically a rookie scale deal here.
He probably could have asked for whatever he wanted in those days. He was at that time. He was a superstar in the world of independent wrestling. But I can't thank Johnny enough. And then he started bringing Candace along, and there was all sorts of stuff that's resulted from him being our guy, so to speak, in the Cleveland area.
Well, and I guess kind of speaking even more to Gargano and Candace and them helping grow AIW and through the training, I know that Kaplan is another one of those guys that was trained by Lorraine Gargano, and I know he's on this show against Filthy Tom Lawler, another guy who, like, I was a big fan of him in the UFC, and I think the company did him very, very dirty. For those of you who don't know the full story, you can look into it, but he basically got suspended for the same thing John Jones just got exempted for, and then had to sit out for 2 years, and it was like I felt so bad, but he's rebounded tremendously since really committing to independent wrestling. Kind of what should the fans that are listening to this expect out of a match between Kaplan and Tom Lawler this weekend?
I think it's funny that you mentioned about Kaplan being trained by Gargano and Lorraine, because they would always just be like, they would always shake their heads at Kaplan in the training school, because they would just he's a lunatic, and he'd be like, I'm going to try a split-legged moonsault, and Johnny would just like turn his head and be like, you shouldn't, so we always crack on Johnny Gargano that his prized pupil Kaplan is finally getting his due out there in the independent scene after all these years. He's getting a little bit of buzz. And Tom Lawler is another guy that he's been with the company for a few years, and always just a world-class talent in the ring. And I think that this match is probably going to it has the potential to be a train wreck. It has the potential to shock people. I don't know. Tom Lawler was texting me like, "What are we supposed to do?" Like, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I just a little, behind the curtain inside baseball. I just thought it looked good on paper. So I just wanted to see. I just wanted to see that match graphic, and I said, "All right, now you guys can figure this part out." Because Kaplan's a wild card. Sometimes he'll throw a couple for real ones, and he doesn't know his own strength, and he loves to take it back. It's just I don't know how to sell it other than it's probably not going to be pretty, but I think you're going to want to watch it, if that makes sense.
It does. That's kind of what I was thinking when I was asking you that question. I was like, I'm very intrigued to see how this match goes down this weekend.
I mean,
as am I.
Train wreck. I like that it's being sold as a potential train wreck. Being there. I now can't wait for this match even more, because I'm not sure what I'm going to see from it. So I don't hope it gets out of control or anything as far as like throwing some stiff shots, but I do hope it gets a little out of control. And I know Tom Lawler can handle himself being from UFC.
Well, Jeremy, I can assure you that it's going to get out of control. I would bet money on that.
Fair enough. Well, if they start fighting near me, can I throw a punch? I mean, I'll probably regret it, but
yeah, I think you would regret that.
I'll get in there. Sean Ross Sapp gets to go in there and do GCW spots. I'll get in there and start doing some AIW spots.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, no. You start getting $5 for Fightful Select out of the fans' hands as you're walking down the ramp, Jeremy.
Jeremy, you pump those social media numbers up. Maybe we'll get you in there like SRS,
Yeah, look, Sean's got like over 100,000 followers and stuff. Nobody knows it's me. I write all these articles, and they all think they're all from Sean anyway. So I get none of the credit, but I also get none of the blame. So I'm fine.
Was that you that was tweeting the other night during the pay-per-view, or what?
No, that was not my tweet. that cyber sex tweet was not mine. All right, everybody.
All right.
That was not
me. Not mine either. I have nothing to do with Fightful social media whatsoever.
All right, so the blame is back to SRS. All right.
I blame him for everything. Everything's his fault, honestly. I just assume everything's him. He tries to pass the buck sometimes, but everything's his fault. Last one for me. Just the importance of Gauntlet for the Gold overall. Like, it started in 2005, and I mentioned that Eddie Kingston is a former winner. Raymond Rowe is a former winner. So we've had Gargano, obviously a former winner. So we've had like some top names winning this thing. Like, just the importance of Gauntlet for the Gold for the company.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're not reinventing the wheel with the story that it is. You win this, you go on to our big show, you get a title match. So it kind of sets up the next few months and where we're going to go. It's important because, I truly feel that, when we were about to have this event, 26 or 28 months ago, whatever it was, like I felt like coming out of 2019, AIW was like really on an ascent, as far as, moving up the ladder among, the elite independent companies. We've always kind of floated around, somewhere in the conversation, but I felt that we were really kind of on a great kind of upward motion. And this is the event where the rug kind of got pulled out from underneath us with the pandemic. And, we were forced to postpone it. We've kind of been, doing all this trial and error since the pandemic hit. And I feel like this is kind of, our reset button, so to speak. Like, okay, now we can officially get back to the regularly scheduled programming and kind of work back towards, where we were headed. I felt in 2020. I'm very excited for it. I will say that there are a lot of surprises on deck. A few very, very, if they come together, could be one of the most talked about shows in the country, I think, after Saturday night. That is the hope. I'm not going to reveal much more than that, but there are a lot of things in motion right now that I'm hopeful to make this kind of, like a, hey, let's put, the pandemic behind us, and we're back. And this was the show that, shut it all down. And this is the show that's going to start it back up again.
See, if I was Sean Ross Sapp, I would be asking, well, tell me the scoops. Let me know what's going on here. I don't want to know those things. I want to be surprised with everybody else on Saturday on IWTV, and I will be there, and I look forward to it.
Jensen? It will not be streaming live on IWTV. It's live to tape. It's live to tape. They're gonna upload it probably that night or early Sunday morning. So it is technically going to air on IWTV. It's just not going to stream live.
All right. Well, then everyone follow me on Twitter, and I'll be tweeting all the fun stuff that'll be happening from the show. That'll boost my numbers, so that way I can get an AIW contract and start fights with Kaplan and Filthy Tom Lawler.
I don't know if you want to get in the middle of that.
No, that's a big brain move, though, Jeremy. That's your way in. Yes. I will definitely be after I'm able to watch this show, which hopefully will be the night that it airs. I will be talking about this on the Fightful Select Weekender podcast. For everyone who listens to this interview, FightfulSelect.com every Sunday, talking indie pro wrestling. I will make sure to talk about this AIW show. And one other person I wanted to bring up as my kind of last question here, just because we've talked about everyone else who's announced for the card so far outside of Isaiah Broner. And this is a guy who, like, the last time I saw him in AIW, he was wrestling Minoru Suzuki, and you got him going right back in there against Eddie Kingston. I think that's two badass matchups, and Isaiah Broner is a dude who, like, when I see him, the word that comes to mind is just believable. He just looks like he can kick anyone's ass, and I love seeing his recent progression. Is that kind of in the line of thinking of like his recent opponents in AIW?
Yeah, so Isaiah Broner is an interesting story. He's from Detroit. He trained, at some schools up there. He started coming, to some sessions at our school. Training with our guys, and a lot of people started advocating for him based on, what he was doing at the school, Dominik Guerini and a few others. And we do kind of some smaller events sometimes at this small music venue called the Winchester, where we're able to kind of, showcase some of our students, bring in some new talent, things like that. So we started Isaiah on some of those, and he was pretty impressive. And I thought, like, his moniker, the 7 Mile Destroyer, I was like, it's so good. You know what I mean? Like, because everybody knows that wherever 7 Mile is, it's probably a real bad place. And he looks believable. He has a aura as soon as his music hits and walks through the curtain. Like you said, he's very believable. And there were a few opportunities where, cards had to be shuffled around at the Odeon and things like that on some of our, what we would call more main card shows. And he was kind of thrown in there and he excelled. And the crowd has just taken to him, and it's everything, right? It's the presentation, it's his entrance music, it's his, what he wears to the ring, how he walks to the ring, how he wrestles. And when he gets in there, he throws probably the hardest lariat in pro wrestling. He is very believable, and he started just really, just connecting with the crowd. And you can't manipulate that sometimes. You can't, as much as you want to try as a wrestling booker or promoter, sometimes you have to just go with the people. And the people were going with Isaiah Broner. And when we had worked out the Minoru Suzuki deal, there were a few names that I was considering, Dominik Guerini, of course, but it happened at Time Bomb in like South Dakota or something. Kaplan was certainly on the list, which we thought like this could be great, but Kaplan could be capable of murdering Minoru Suzuki, and I don't know if I want that on my hands.
True.
Tom Lawler was considered, but that has happened before. And I just kept coming back to Isaiah Broner, and I thought, no one on earth would ever book this match. Isaiah Broner is still relatively an unknown in the world of wrestling. And I just said, you know what? We're doing it. And he didn't find out until the show before where he wrestled Kaplan. And I stopped him and I said, hey, after the match, I want you to pick up the mic and I want you to just say Minoru Suzuki and drop it. And he would just look at me. He said, are you for real? And I said, I'm for real. And he said, all right. And that's how it happened. And I did the same exact thing about the Eddie Kingston match. We were back at the smaller venue, the Winchester. And, he was right before he went out for his match. I said the same thing. I said, hey, after you went and pick up the mic, and I want you to say Eddie Kingston and drop the mic. And he said, really? And I said, absolutely. I said, he's like, this is the one I want. And I said, I know. Yeah, I think there's tremendous upside to him. I think if you're an independent promoter, you're a fool if you're not putting your money behind this guy. Same goes with the Rip City Shooters and Dominik Guerini. I mean, there's a whole list. I mean, I'm biased. I believe in my guys, obviously, and girls. There's, also, a lot of great females coming out of our school, like Jocelyn Navarro, who has been tearing it up, who I'm sure is going to get in the mix somehow on Saturday night. Yeah, Broner, I really do believe in my roster. I think, it is different than every other independent promotion out there. I think, we have characters and roles and, everything kind of makes sense, and you get a little bit of everything at an AIW show. And that's why I'm hopeful that everything comes together Saturday and more people start paying attention to AIW and following us. And hopefully we can grow it. And, all these talents can start getting booked all over the country. I mean, that's really the plan.
John, I want to thank you for joining us today. I appreciate you joining us today. Any last plugs that you want to get out there?
No, I mean, just, support independent wrestling. It doesn't have to be AIW. I think, there's probably an AIW in every city across America somewhere you can find an independent wrestling company to support. And, that's how independent wrestling, thrives. We need people to walk through the doors and buy a ticket. All the streaming stuff is great and it's helping, raise awareness. But at the end of the day, all these companies need is live event support. It is a live event business. And anything you can do to support any of your local independent companies, please do it. It doesn't have to be mine. I love independent wrestling and I want it to be around until the end of time. But yeah, just watch AIW on IWTV. You can buy DVDs and Blu-rays from Smart Mark Video. Follow us on Twitter at AI Wrestling. That's really it. I mean, I really appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to talk a little bit about AIW and what we have going on. I can't thank you guys enough.
Again,
Thanks for
we
joining us,
appreciate
yeah.
Yes, we appreciate you joining us. It is Gauntlet for the Gold, Saturday, May 21st. It will be up on IWTV shortly after. And if you're in the Akron, Ohio area, come to the event, come support. It seems like it's going to be a fantastic show. I know I'm excited. I was telling you off air, my first AIW show. I'm very excited to check everything out and go to. This is my first independent show in forever, so I'm very excited to go out there and just take in the experience and get involved in one of these fights. Maybe I'll throw a punch. I don't know about Kaplan and Lawler, but yeah, Eddie Kingston. We're sort of mutuals. I think if I can maybe take him and he'll be okay with it. It won't hurt me too bad if I throw a shot at him. Everybody, again, Gauntlet for the Gold on Saturday. John, thank you again for joining us. We'll be right back here on the